The U.S. housing market is about to face its biggest test. During the spring and summer months, the U.S. housing market usually has an uptick and home prices go up. But with the Fed raising interest rates, which increases mortgage rates and more home buyers get out of the housing market, how will home prices be affected this year in 2023? The value of U.S. homes recorded its biggest 6-month drop since 2008. So the U.S. housing market in 2023 is following similar patterns as the U.S. housing market did in 2008 with the housing market crash. In June of 2022, U.S. homes were worth around $47.7 trillion. By the end of the year, that fell by almost 5% to $45.3 trillion. And once again, that drop is mostly caused by what the Fed is doing in order to tame inflation, to bring down inflation. They are raising the interest rates. And so that puts a lot of pressure on the housing market and it pulls demand down because now people can't afford homes at these current prices. And then on top of that, their monthly payments, their mortgage payments are elevated. So that's why I believe these next few months will really determine how the U.S. housing market is going to be affected from here on out. How the U.S. housing market is going to react to spring and summer months when people are more motivated to move, when the housing activity increases and people are encouraged by the warmer weather to move and school is ending so they can move their children to a different place that they always wanted to live. But this time around with different interest rates and elevated prices across the whole U.S. economy, how will this affect the U.S. housing market? Even if home prices remain the same and don't go up as much as they did last year and just go up, let's say 1%, it still will be more expensive this year to buy a home than last year because of interest rates. Now I'm about to show you all a very interesting chart to see how will the housing market react to these new changes happening and what home prices will be these next few months. But before we go there, please subscribe to this channel as I talk about the US economy as a whole, how to make money online. So please be sure to subscribe. All right, so I'm on Redfin News Data Center and they're showing the median sale price is currently at $347,000. You see that home prices are still higher than they were last year. There's still a year-over-year increase and it's only 1%. But 1% still makes a difference, especially with these higher mortgage rates. But something interesting here, if you see this dot right here compared to the current reading, you see that there's a slight uptick. And if we go down to this chart, looking at the year-over-year percentage, you see that it went from 0.7% year-over-year increase to 0.92 increase. And you see from the previous charts that during the spring and summer months, these home prices usually go up. And yeah, I know these were pandemic years, but that usually follows the trend every single year. People buy more houses during the spring and summer. And so you see that if this blue line follows this black line and it just stays around, it hovers around and maybe it goes a little bit lower, 1% lower, 1% higher, it's still going to be unaffordable for most people to own homes around this time because once again, mortgage rates are still elevated. And so if this blue line just follows that black line, we're still going to be in a rough situation for most consumers. All right, if you look at this Redfin chart right here, all of these lighter green or darker green circles indicate an increase in home prices. The lighter green or the red circles represent a decrease in home values, a decrease in home prices. And as you can see, the whole east side is relatively darker green. More west you go, you see the lighter the green shades are, and you actually see some red circles. And so that's another big test facing the US housing market. Will the East Coast finally experience some home price decrease? Will they finally experience this home value decrease that other areas of the country are experiencing, like on the west side? This other chart by Redfin shows that San Francisco experienced the biggest U.S. metro area home price fall at 6.7% or negative 6.7%. And then you have Oakland, San Jose, New York, Seattle, and I believe that's Boise. And so you see that most of the metro areas that are experiencing big home prices decreases, declines in home values are on the West Coast. In this article right here, it was also showing other housing markets that actually showed increases over the past year, a year-over-year increase. And so you see right here, the total values of homes in Miami rose 19.7% year over year to $77 billion. Do you all understand? Like, Miami is increasing this much year over year, still happening in 2023, right? And then next came another area in Florida. Then you have Knoxville, Tennessee. You have Charleston, South Carolina. You have another city in Florida. It said Florida was home to 6 of the 10 metro areas with the largest annual home value gains in percentage terms, even after Hurricane Ian caused billions of dollars in damage and displaced thousands of Floridians in fall of 2022. And so you have a lot of these East Coast cities still retaining their values, and even more, they're actually increasing their home values. And so you have areas like Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, where there's usually a lower cost of living. Maybe in certain states, they have no state income tax. There are friendly landlord laws around owning rental properties and things of that nature. So you have a lot of people from California and New York moving to these areas. And it's interesting that if you look at this chart down below, it shows that areas with high flood risk see 8% increase in home value, right? How is that possible, right? That there are certain parts of Florida that seems like it's going to go underwater in the next few years, but people are still buying properties in those areas because of the cost of living, because of the relaxed nature of the state, because of taxes and other things of that nature. If you look at this chart, you see home values increase in areas with heat issues, with storm issues, with flood issues. And then other areas where it's usually like California, where they experience fire and drought, you have, I guess, the low risk, you actually have them decreasing in home value. And so it's very interesting just showing that whole chart of just seeing people, how they react to natural disasters happening in their area. And so it seems like people are justifying in their head, they're able to just ignore these natural disasters that's happening in this state because they like the area so much. So another thing I want to show you all is just looking at this chart again. If I go down to the region name, I could type in, for example, Orlando, Florida, and it will show me Orlando, Florida metro area. And you see that there's a way higher year over year percentage growth compared to just showing all metro areas. And it's at 8%. So there's been an 8% increase year over year, still happening in 2023. Home values, home prices increasing in areas like this. But for example, if I go to San Francisco area, you see that this blue line is all the way down there, and they're showing a negative 5% decrease in home values, right? And so every area is different, but most of these West Coast cities are not experiencing home values increase. And so you see like Boise, Idaho, they're at negative 11% of a decrease essentially. But if I go to, for example, let's go to another Florida city, let's go to Tampa, most likely you see another increase of 7%. And so you have all of this happening between the two areas. And so it's going to be interesting seeing how they react to these next couple of months. All right, you all, let me know down below your thoughts on how the housing market is going to behave these next couple of months. The main test is seeing how home prices will react to higher interest rates, to people not buying as much, to a lot of home buyers not being able to qualify for as many mortgages. Will home prices still remain elevated? Will they go down? By how much they will go down? And also just looking at the two regions happening in America, where on the East Coast, we are still experiencing home value increase, but the West Coast, they're finally experiencing that home value decrease. And so will the East Coast eventually start falling, or will they remain steady or even continue to rise? And so those are the two main tests happening to the US housing market, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Please be sure to subscribe as I update you all along on this journey these next couple of months. All right, talk to you all later.